Black historical facts and resources. These poems explore themes of culture, self-confidence, relationships, and anxiety. But the book goes deeper than that. It also delves into the experiences of the domestic violence. So this is domestic violence concerning children and adults. One of the poems in particular speaks about a heartbreaking issue of murder-suicide due to domestic violence. From my own experience, I've had 2 friends that was involved in relationships that ended in domestic violence. So it was placed on my heart. I mean, this is probably like in the 90s. And I've written and I wrote, and life happened and I put them aside, and they were collecting dust under my cabinet. And I'm like, I got to be able to get this out. I gotta stop, I gotta pause, I gotta make time for this because their life matters. And there's no story beyond the grave, they're gone. So I gotta share it with someone else that can probably help and save them. So I have resources in this book on how to do that. What are signs of domestic violence? What to look for? So that even if it's not you, it's someone else, that you can help them save their lives to get out of a relationship that could potentially end a life. So my book is also a reflection of the complexities of the journey of being Black, but it does more than that. It explores trauma, it explores pain, and the immense resilience and strength that can be found in overcoming these experiences. So I wrote this book with fierce honesty and poetic grace, hoping to inspire and hoping to encourage my readers to be triumphant in their past traumas. At the core of my book is a message of hope, that no matter what hardships we face, we can rise above them, and we could be a symbol of power, we can be a symbol of strength, and we could be a symbol of resilience in the face of adversity. And as an artist, I believe that we need to explore these harsh realities to help more people to speak up against them. So I urge you all to take the time to read my book, We Be Black, We've Been Blue, and share it with your family, share it with your friends who may be experiencing or going through similar experiences. Let's continue to work together to raise awareness about these issues, to empower those who have experienced them, and most importantly, to heal. In addition to that, I would like to share a piece from the book. This piece is called Where Love Lives. We hold her like bandages, wrapped up ever so tightly, like bracing broken bones. Though we hope for her to heal, that never happened. We walk around with limps, wearing it as the latest fashion. Hurt has been trending before, hieroglyphics on ancient monuments. Our mummies nursed us while praying that our generational curses be reversed. Then they sent us to churches where we rehearsed church hurt, concealed in hymns, hallelujahs, tucked tightly, ever so tightly in fancy hats that dare to distract the disillusion. With discreetly decorated feathers, may we learn to lead, lifting up love, holy love as a bright light. Let's start serving sacred communion from the plate and the cup of self-love. Lord, let the language we learn not be taught from those who so eloquently speak a love language derived from hurt people who hurt people. Where is the house that love lives? Where are the investors that will invest in it? Pending are the present petitions of parents hoping to pour a concrete promises, setting a sure foundation to secure a better nation. Where is this house that love lives? I've rummaged through these states. If this house had feet, I'm sure it escaped from these United States. Unapologetically, I state love does not abide in these 50 states. Not here where the homeless live hopeless, where hunger hides in hollow cabinets, where mothers weep while wondering how to feed their famished families, where the streets are bumper to bumper filled with trafficking. These streets are paved with the silent yet astonishing statistics stating between 15,000 to 50,000 women and children soullessly snatched and sentenced into sexual slavery. Who unlocked the gates to leave insecurities in each and every state? I'm sure the house where love lives grew deep in the states.
So I want you to imagine something. Think of something that you really have always wanted to do. A dream, if you will. But it's tucked away in your head, called a vault. Like a vault in a bank. Vaults in bank is where people put their most important things in, papers, maybe even money. And they may take it out to make sure it's still there. We may tend to do that as well. Take it out of the vault in our minds, and we look at it and it's like, man, that's the greatest thing that I could do. And you've been thinking about it for maybe even decades, and then you tuck it back away in the vault of your mind. Because you see, in order for us to make a change, we have to change our mind, the way we think. So this is the first book. It's called ATAP-AW. All things are possible anywhere. Coming from Ephesians 20. You know, anything can be possible. Go to Mark chapter 9. The Father, when asked by Jesus, can you believe that I can do this? Heal your son? He's like, yes, I believe, but you know, can you help me with my unbelief? Because I'm really not sure if you can. And of course, if you go on and read the rest of the chapter, you find out that he did in fact heal the son. So, what are your goals? And what is in your head, spinning around? There may be a lot of towns and cities that we mentally put our idea in. But if we are ready for change, it will go through different towns and cities like this book talks about, and how the idea makes its way through those towns with getting to the location of ATAP-AW. And so it's a place where not only the idea lives, but you too. Because you start to imagine, I can do this. And like I said, I've been writing since I was a teenager. It took me to my 60s to get this done.
That's all right.
Okay? And so, what are your goals? What have you thought about doing? Has God been continuously pricking your mind to do it, but you dismiss any chance of it being birthed into reality? Take a journey through towns and cities and see how it resonates with you. This book will help challenge you to not only visit ATAP-AW, but to forever reside there. So if you get this book, you can begin the journey. That's the first book. Second book is the latest one. It's called Strengthen. And it is just a collage of a devotional, different ideas, different things. And I would like to read you a piece of it. It's called Supplies Needed. What a gift I received on my birthday. I was not feeling well. I was having trouble breathing. I had a fever, so I decided to get tested for the COVID virus. The next day, my present arrived. I tested positive. Not many days after that, at the suggestion of friends, I decided to go to the emergency room. I didn't want to drive, so I called 911 for an ambulance to take me. In the back of my mind, I was concerned at how much the bill would be, as I remembered I had paid over $600 for the same service to get my mother to the hospital months ago. And times have changed because it's now $1,600. Jesus. When I told the driver of the hospital which one I wanted to go, I was told I had to be taken to the nearest hospital, which in this case was about 10 miles away. I was hesitant but went anyway because I was not sure the hospital would accept my health insurance. I trusted God to work it out. I was in the hospital for about 3 or 4 days. And after a lot of tests and being put on a low dose of oxygen, I was well enough to go home and finish recuperating. A month later, I got an email that stated my health insurance possessed or processed a claim. So I looked it up. Turns out there are about 4 or 5 claims from when I was in the hospital with COVID. If I did not have health insurance, my bill would have been over $51,000 for a 4-day stay. I thank God for financial protection, and my insurance company paid 100% of my bill, including the $1,000 ambulance invoice. So God supplied my need, which was financial care and also the health care that I needed. In the 4th chapter of Philippians, Paul was thankful that many believers came to his aid and provided the donations he needed. He learned how to be faithful when he was supplied, but also when supply was needed and lacking. And perhaps I can say the same. When belief is exercised for a need, God will supply it. God will work it out. I hope you will exercise your faith till you get a supply from God's storehouse. And there's many more in this book called Strengthen. I have books for you, so I hope you will come and visit my table. However, you can also get it on Amazon.
Beyond the Event Horizon, and it's a poetry book that you literally have to read page by page. It's my diary, my poetic diary. It's my journey from a lost young black man who's grown into a fully developed, fully inspired, fully passionate about words and its tremendous effect on the world and society. And what is this book about? Well, you're gonna get an in-depth look at why I wrote the poems in the first place. You ever wonder like what the poet was talking about when they wrote the poem, or what events happened in that poet's life that shaped the poem? You're gonna get that in this book. So it's an in-depth journey through my mind. It's an in-depth journey through my progression as a poet from as young as high school to adulthood. And it's very transparent. My wife can attest, she's in the back right there. She can attest that, you know, there was some poems in there. You really want to put that poem in the book? But I wanted to really give a transparent look at some of the things that I went through, some of the tribulations that I went through, and how I came out of that. So this book is going to make you laugh, it's going to make you cry, but it's always going to inspire you. So I wanted to give you, this is also my spoken word album. I have digital forms too here, called Pulsar. And as you can see, there's science themes. You know, I'm a lover of science, always been. So there's little science in both of these, but this is my spoken word album, Pulsar. It has rhythms of hip hop, R&B, roots reggae, and jazz as well, so mixed with the poems. But I wanted to give a sample. You're going to actually get a chance to hear more of my work later on May 13th, Saturday, May 13th, at the Club Wine and Reeds, right in the Philly area. Tickets are sold by myself, and as well as one of the other authors, Inanna Joy. And so if you want to hear more of the poetry, you have a chance to do there. It's a very intimate environment, and only a selective, small limit of tickets. So, you know, you can get those now too as well. But I want to give y'all words, all right? So this is one of the pieces in the book, and I think we all can relate to. It's called Have You Ever? Have you ever taken your last breath where there's nothing left to give or to take? where the only thing you can do is suffocate on deaf ears that only hear the aftermath of a wrath that lasted 1,000 years, and you shed your 1,000th tear till the rest is dried on you through. Got laid off from your job and now there's no more milk for the honey, and you're about to get evicted from your apartment because you haven't paid that money. It's never funny about this picture, and your pocket seems to get poorer and poorer while theirs keep getting richer and richer. Have you ever seen life on the other end of a barrel, where your eyes is on the violence of death, but his eyes is on the sparrow? Going through life in the deep end and not the shallow part. Feeling like that lion in The Wizard of Oz, but you never had enough heart. Trying to search for God, but you can't see the God in you, and heaven keeps knocking at your door, but you won't let heaven walk on through you. You gotta believe in these words if you don't believe in self. Because what I see before me is worth more than fame and wealth. You got to take that gun from off the top shelf and kill that part of you that is hazardous to your health. Lay all your burdens down by the riverside. And then and only then, you will truly see the Most High. Have you ever wanted a miracle? Well, that day is today. And the answer you can't get from a man, a paycheck, or someone else's hand. It's spiritual.
My name. Okay, people have always thought that it was kind of funny that it's, sort of like a juxtaposition of positive and negative. They wonder, is she a joy or is she an outlaw? I've been a little bit of both, but I tend to lean more towards the joy. All right, in my senior year of high school, when one of the teachers used to call roll, one of my classmates used to whistle The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly from that old Clint Eastwood movie. If you're old enough to remember Westerns, you know what I'm talking about. Some people ask me why I chose the name Inanna Joy for my public name. Inanna was an ancient goddess of love, fertility, and war. And I chose that because the challenge to acknowledge and integrate the good, the bad, and the ugly in all of us is a constant daily struggle, right? Now, some people also say that the name Joy Outlaw sounds like a superhero name. And I actually found out about 5 years ago that somebody who I was in a Facebook group with took my name and assigned it to a superhero character that they were creating for a comic book. Now, I kind of can't blame them because it was a writer and I can't knock the hustle. But if this person and their brand ever becomes big, I will be riding their coattails like a dark horse, okay? In his superhero series, he assigned certain qualities to this superhero character, Joy Outlaw. She has the same birth year as me. She has a birth date that's 2 digits less than mine. She was my age at the time. She's 1 zodiac sign after me, and her life path number is 1 digit less than mine. Her qualities include the following: master manifester. Now that one I gotta get with, I like that. She's passionate. She has low patience though, and I gotta admit that's me. It also says that she's gossipy and a bit jealous. Now I think he ad-libbed a little bit on that one. Her description says that she is a truth seeker who can manifest large gauntlet-style light constructs of varying size, forming them around her hands and shooting them from her arms like missiles. Now, if that's symbolism for being a writer, sitting at my keyboard and shooting out words that can bring light into people's lives, I can get with that, all right? He says she is only limited by her imagination. Okay. Now, according to this Identity Thief's website, it appears that the comic books and the hoodies are still on sale. I'm not gonna tell y'all what this website is. And like I said, if this brand ever hits it big, I'm gonna be showing up. I'm gonna be showing up to his events in full cosplay gear as Joy Outlaw. Right? I'm taking my brother with me because in the comic book series, Joy Outlaw also has a big brother named Bo. I have a big brother, my kid's favorite uncle, and he is actually a comic book junkie. So he's gonna be there with me in full regalia. We're showing out, okay? By the way, my brother's name is Damien Outlaw. And yes, my mother got his name from the 1976 movie, The Omen. featuring Damien the Antichrist. Now you might be surprised to find out that my mom is actually a very devout Christian woman, and my brother is truly a saint of a person. He discovered a few years ago that his name was shared by an actual saint named Saint Damien, who is a patron of the sick. So there is hope. Even though we descend from a few bootleggers and rebels and misfits with a slew of our own flaws to overcome, we do overcome by the word of our testimony. Obviously, we're all here because we love words, we love to read, and many of us live to write. It's our calling. It's not just what we do, it's who we are. When you stop by my table and by James's table, you'll find out a little bit more about Club Wine and Reads, which you can sign up for today. It's basically like a book club gathering with a jazzy sort of lounge vibe. Tickets are on sale now for the event on May 15th. James is going to capture the audience with his story and his poetry. There's going to be complimentary wine and refreshments, but the tickets are limited, like he said, so you want to get those right away. So far, I have written 2 novels. They're in the Jane Luck Adventures series. One is called Pretty Little Mess, and one is called Things Fall Together. They're basically about a young woman who starts out from a very humble, poor religious upbringing. She grows up, she comes into her own, goes to college, starts traveling the world, and haphazardly has a series of events where she encounters a bunch of villains and ends up getting on the unexpected path of becoming a hit woman. So that's underway. That's a trilogy, actually, that I'm working on. I'm working on the 3rd novel now. You'll also find at my table those beautiful gold reusable shopping bags. If you want to grab one, they're free with your purchase. $1 if you want to just get the bag and take it to Target or whatever, with you to the beach, whatever. We're doing some very exciting things. I also recently created a brand called Book Gems because I love to do things with my hands. I love to make jewelry, and I decided, since I also love books, why not start making bookmarks? Nice. So these are beautiful handmade bookmarks with gemstones and pearls, things like that. I have a few at my table there that you can buy. They're also available on Etsy. My books are available on Amazon and on my website. So like I said, we're doing some very exciting things. Everything that we do is inspired by words. Words hold the power of life and death. They are the spark, the creative force that allows us to do whatever we desire. That is why we are only limited by our imagination.
That was the result of me going from 2 incomes to 1 income to no income. Can you imagine? So as a result, I literally lost my mind. And so because I did not have any income, all at the same time, my home went into foreclosure, my truck was repossessed, I couldn't afford to buy food for my daughter, who's back there, her name is London. And so how many of you know those water jugs, and when it's empty, you can fill it up with change? So that's what I had to do. I was in full survival mode. And I remember saying, God, how did I get here? I'm not supposed to be here. Because prior to that, everything in my life was stable. And for some reason, I thought that I was above struggling. For some reason, I thought that I was above being in a low place. So when it hit me all at one time, the struggle was real. It got real quick, right? And so London and I, we found ourselves going to Save-A-Lot, right on Shoe Avenue, to take our coins to the change machine. And people who know me knows that everything I do, I try to make it a teachable moment. This was not a teachable moment. I was in full survival mode. How many of you know that if you make a big old pot of spaghetti, it's gonna last you for a while, right? So that's what I needed to do. Turn my change in, because I needed to buy spaghetti sauce, the noodles, and a pack of Kool-Aid. Because we needed to make it last a while. And although London and I lived in a 1,196 square foot home, I had no heat in my home. So she and I were confined to the smallest room of the house that was 110 square feet. Can you imagine? It was so cold in my house, I would watch London walk around with her coat on, and when she did, you could see the Hulk coming out her mouth. And I don't know if any of you ever been to Chicago, but it felt like a Chicago winter inside of my home. And that small room is where we were confined to. And
And literally day by day, I watched London walk around with that coat on. I watched London with the Hulk come out of her mouth. And I fell into a deeper and deeper state of depression. And I kept my head buried under the covers. And day by day, I said to myself, I give up. And not that I wanted to give up physically and not be here, but I gave up with trying. I gave up with exploring my options. I said, the house is a foreclosure, keep it. The truck was repossessed, keep it. I have no money to buy London food, not a problem. I'll hit up every free food bank that I can to feed my daughter. But then the more I looked at London, I had to remember that she was looking back at me. Because as parents, we are the example. We are the guide. They are taking their cues from us. So I had to have a very hard conversation with myself and say, how am I going to prepare London for when she gets older and she is struggling, when she is facing adversity? Because the one thing that's going to happen is we will all go through something. I knew that London would grow up and there would be a time where she would go through something. So I'm setting her up for failure because what she's going to do is remember seeing that when we go through things, I just do what my mom did. I buried my head under the covers. I throw the phone to the side when the bill collectors were coming. So in that moment, I had to remember what a mentor once said to me. And I want to share this with you also. Identify your why. When you identify your why should make you cry. And that was the beginning stages of me shifting my mindset and the actions that I took to overcome everything that I was going through. And in addition to identifying my why, the other question I had to ask myself was, Tiffany, who will lose if you do not win? London would lose if I did not win. So that was the beginning of a total of 5 things that I did that changed the course of my life. So the first thing I did was I identified my why. The second thing that I did was I shifted my mindset. My core belief is that when you shift your mindset, there will be a shift in the trajectory of your life. The third thing I did was I reactivated my faith. Now, I grew up in the church, I was raised in the church, but I got to a point in my life when I was younger where I left God. God never left me. And I had to realize that he was just waiting for me to come back and acknowledge that he was the one who was going to be able to carry me through. And let me just say that faith doesn't make it easy, and it didn't make it easy. Faith made it easier to get through day by day. The fourth thing that I did is I began to pray. And I encourage you all to pray about everything and pray without ceasing. Don't just seek God for some things, but seek God for all things. And that's what I had to do. The fifth thing that I did was I identified a support system. Because remember when I said in the beginning, for some reason, I thought that I was above struggling. I was above lack. I was above being in that body. So I kept my mouth closed and I never asked for help. And I want to say to you all this afternoon, it is okay to not be okay. Ask for help. And so I did those 5 things. And when I did that I felt like was the start of me shifting and being able to overcome and God giving me the strength to endure. And at the end, I regained everything back that I lost, including my mind. That home that was in foreclosure, the foreclosure was reversed. My truck that was repossessed, I got it back in 15 days. That home office that was so cold that London and I were confined to has become my home office where I am the speaker on podcasts and virtual platforms all the way from Philadelphia to South Africa. There is nothing too hard for God. In addition to that, in that same office where I sat and I poured out and I reflected and I thank God for the struggle. I embraced the struggle because what God had to remind me is that, Tiffany, it was never about you. It's about all those people, all those women, all those individuals I need you to go back and reach and let them know that I am no respecter of person. And if I did it for you, I would do it for them. Right? And so when God sat me down and had really took me back through the journey and he gave it to me. He said, I have taken you from the struggle to the stage, which is the title of my book. And in this book are my 5 life-saving principles that will shift the trajectory of your life.
hold each other up. And for me, I believe this starts with women. So my business is really focusing on women and children. And I say that because there's so many things that as women we hold the gate to. We hold the gate to what we speak into our children, what we instill in our homes, what we allow in our lives that our children are watching, what we allow in our lives that we have to go through and learn through. And so every day we are faced with so many people and so many things that we have to learn, grow, and heal from. And the healing part is something we have not mastered. We have learned how to put it under the rug, we have learned how to ignore it, we have learned how to completely disengage from it, but at what point do we heal? And because we're not healing, our children are the ones that's taking the burden. And so over and over again, I talk to mothers of all ages, mothers my age, mothers that's younger than me, teen moms, older moms, and the common thread is that we don't know how to heal. We don't know how to take that time to heal. And so what we get is more broken families, more children that don't understand us, that don't communicate with us because we have so much to be enraged about, and that's how we respond, because we're not healed. We don't take our time to really sit down and understand the emotions we're going through. We don't take the time to understand that we are passing on the legacy of rape and brokenness. And so my line talks about everything that a woman can go through. I have financial literacy, postpartum depression. It's all through journaling, workbooks. I have stuff for children, young adults, because this is where we need to start healing from. There is so much in our community that we overlook because we are too shaded by the experiences we are taught. We don't know how to own ourselves, let alone bringing up someone else. Like, if you ask a mother, who are you? I'm a mother, I'm a this, I'm a that. No, not what do you do, who are you? We can't answer that usually. We can't answer it without some props, and we look to our husbands, we look to our jobs, we look to our children, but that's not who we are. That's not who we are. That's what we do. Those are the roles we play. At what point do we reconnect with who we are so we can lead in our true fashion? Because we are masking, and we gotta stop that. We gotta stop that as Black women. We gotta stop that today as Black women. And it's not gonna stop overnight, but we gotta make the choices to stop that so we can full-fledged own our roles, own who we are, and become the pillars in the communities that we serve, rightfully so, because our children are hurting. And that's who's hurting, and that's who's paying the price for all of our oversight, or lack thereof, of our emotions. So emotional understanding, awareness really breathes life into mental awareness, mental health, mental wellness, and that's what I talk about. So this is my newest book that's dropping May 1st, and this is really for the busy mom, which is every mom, but it's really about setting the intention. Every night, it's about meditation, it's about setting the intention for the next day, coming up with self-care goals, because we gotta take care of ourselves. That's something we don't do. So coming up with self-care goals, going through the things that is needed, prioritize. Don't just do everything, because that's what we are taught to do. Take on the whole world and go forward. No, you gotta prioritize. Prioritize what means the most to you and what you need to do for the next day. Because if you can't pour into yourself, you're not pouring into your children. You're not pouring into your family. You're on autopilot. We gotta shift gears. Thank you.
Poetry is cathartic. I think that I'm a big advocate for journaling. Write about it. You know, your feelings, your thoughts. If you're going through something, write about it. I suffered with depression for over 30 years. I might not look like it. People would not notice it because I was still functioning in my depression. I raised 2 children depressed. They didn't know it. So I say continue to push, continue to pray. when you're in those moments. Because I've seen a few people get up here and mention depression or dealing with those things. But know that you can get through that. And your life experiences are not just for you. They're for the next person. Because what you're going to be is that light that shows them that there's another side to this. You might be in the darkness right now, and that's what I call depression, the darkness. You might be in the darkness now, but there's always a light at the end of that tunnel. But you have to keep pushing. My pastor spoke at church one day, and he talked about a rainstorm. And he talked about how bad the storm was. And I thought about a storm I had been in before, and I pulled over to the side to try to wait for the rain to stop. However, when he spoke of the storm, he talked about how bad it was, but he kept going through the storm, and he outran the storm cloud. How about if I had kept going and I pulled on the side of the road? Because I sat there for like a good hour. You know what I mean? So I said that to say the same thing about your life. When you're in the midst of that storm, know that you're going to come out on the other side of that. Okay? Trouble don't last always. Okay? And the rain will stop. It might pour a while, but it's going to stop and you're going to have the sun. So, I have 2 other books. I am an international best-selling co-author. And so what that means is I contributed to an anthology. Okay? The visionary author, her name is Dr. Tamika Hall. And the first book that I was in is called The Purpose in My Pain. And in this book, I spoke about forgiveness. I am also an MST survivor. There's children in this room, so I won't expound on what that is. But I am an MST survivor. Actually, I'm an MST thriver. Because I didn't just survive it, I'm thriving. And I can talk about it and not cry. So I'm on the other side of that. However, in this book, I talked about forgiving those people that hurt me. I talked about forgiving my ex-husband for not being able to love me the way I felt I needed to be loved, you know. And I talked about forgiving my mother for also not being able to love me in the way I thought maybe she should love me as my mother. She could only love me in her own capacity. You know, she also has traumas that she has not healed from. And I forgive her for not being able to give me what I may have needed as a child. I love her past all of that pain. And so I talk about that. And I only give a small piece of that. Like my chapter in here actually could be my book. Like I could write a whole book, which I am going to write eventually. But my story going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot. Don't steal my title because I'm telling y'all it here. And if I see it, y'all know I said it. It's called The D in Dysfunction. Okay? And so that's the name of my life story. But I do intend to write that. And so I also am part of a book. It's called God Blocked It. And Dr. Tamika Hall also is the visionary author. On the back of the books, it always shows all the pictures of all the authors that's involved here. And in this particular book, I talked about being a generational curse breaker. I am a generational curse breaker. I am not what I've been through. I am not what my mother said I was. I am not what other people may have thought I was. I am who God says I am. Okay? And I say the same to you. No matter what you're going through, no matter what somebody pours into you, all that negativity, you are not that. God has purposed you for this. There is purpose in your pain. Okay? Just continue to push. Just continue to push. Continue to pray. Know that He already got you. He has you in the palm of His hand. You understand? And He counts all the hairs on your head. Okay? And He counts you as beautiful. You are worthy. You know? One of the people I love the word, my favorite singer is Mary J. Blige. And she has a song called Good Morning Gorgeous. Yes. Did that speak to me? Yes, it did. Because, and I only can speak for me personally, there are times, even to this day, I feel unworthy. I don't feel like I'm enough. Someone else will look at all of my accomplishments and say, oh my God, she got it going on. I, at times, do not feel that way. You understand? But understand that God has made you into something for Him. It's not about other people and what they think. It's what did God purpose you for? Are you walking in what he has put you on this earth to do. I am a natural born encourager. When I'm going through something, you're not gonna know. I got a word for you. I got a word for you. I got something positive for you. Yes, I do. I might be in the darkest moment of my life, and I'm gonna pour positivity into your spirit. That's just who he made me to be. And I finally embrace that. I know who I am. I know what I'm purposed for. He mentioned I'm working on my next book. My next book is positive self-talk and affirmations. It's going to be a bunch of I am statements. It's going to be Bible verses, and it's going to be reflection questions, so that you can begin to say, I am worthy. I am loved. I am successful. I got this. I can do this. So that's what my next book is for, because I have worked with some children, and I've seen a lot of young ladies who are not getting that maybe at home. But understand that if you are in a negative space and your parents are not giving you what you need, and they might call you some negative names. I have been everything, and no reflection on my mom. I love my mother, even through all of the stuff. I love my mother. But I have been everything but the child of God. For no reason. For no reason. So, I thank y'all for listening to me. I went a little further than I thought, but I really said, what am I going to talk about when I get here? I'm just going to show my 3 books and say, hey, y'all, buy my book. You know, I have my little t-shirts on my table. But no, God said you have something to say. You have some things you need to get out. Somebody in this room needs to hear from you today. And so I hope, whomever that is, that you got something out of the things I just poured to you. All of your poetry is dope. I think I bought your book when we were at Arts and Authors. Because one thing I am is, I'm a really big supporter of others. I try to. I bought your book when we were just on the call. I said, hey, look, I bought your book while we were on this call. But I encourage each and every one of you authors here, young people who want to be authors, to continue to press on. You know, if you have the thought, Tiffany spoke about mindset. If you have the thought, you can achieve it. Okay, if you can think it and begin to believe it, you can achieve it. You can do anything you set your mind to. And when that procrastination spirit hits you, say, you know what? I'm purpose for this. Procrastination, get out the way. I'm purpose for this. And if you have writer's block or you haven't started, this is the last thing I'll say. If you think you want to write a book, write. That's it. Just write. Just begin to write a couple of sentences a day. Just write it. You can do it. You are purpose for this. You are going to be great. I can't wait to support you. I can't wait to say I met them at this Office Cafe, and look at what they're doing now. So that's my time. I just really wanted to pour. It's about these books because
Book on a mobile app, and that's that's actually considered to be a platform for authors who wants to take it further. So as I progressed, I thought about turning into a ministry. So Saving Carmen, this is my first book. It's my first book, and I'm just so proud of myself. So I didn't intend in becoming an author in the beginning. It was just something that I thought was just for pleasure. So when I shared it with my sisters, Rafequa Hall and Shireen, I told them about it, and I read it to them, and she was like, wait, you need to turn this into a book and stop playing. She said, it's really good. You need to just keep moving forward, and just think about what you really want to do. And that's what I did. And she did not stop until I just kept reading, keep reading it to her. So I ended up reading the whole book to her. And this is unedited. So I just kept reading it to her, and that's what really inspired me and motivated me to keep pushing and go ahead and turn it into a book. So she did not want to lose any sleep. So I had to tell myself, Althea, you need to just keep going, because there was so many obstacles along the way, and I was having so much self-doubt, and I didn't know. It was times I didn't even know if I wanted to keep going. But I had to realize this is my passion. This is something that I've always wanted to do. And I made my parents proud. Because for a long time, I didn't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do. but this was a hidden talent for me. And all those sleepless nights, the research and the editing process, the money and the energy I put into it, that's when I knew things got real. I had to keep reminding myself, like, look, you got this. You got this, you're almost there, and to be patient. You have to be patient. And you know, it's so easy to say, hey, I want to write a book. But we all know that there's a difference between saying it and doing it. There is a difference. But the fact that I actually did it was a huge accomplishment for me. I didn't realize how huge it was until I held my book in my hands for the first time. I almost cried. I probably did. I think I did shed a tear. And I was holding my work. This is my hard work. 300 plus pages. Yes. So I knew that I had to come out of my comfort zone. And with that, I knew that being an introvert for so long, I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that was my first step to being open to speak at events. This is actually my first event, so. Besides my book launch. And I had to fight that fear in me, inside of me, that made me self-doubt. And at times, I just had to thank God for even getting me here in this place in my life. I had to take a leap of faith to do something that I enjoy doing. And I do hope to inspire those who feel like they don't know where to start in the writing process, or whatever it is that you may want to do in life, whatever your passion is, just take that first step and believe in the process, trust the process, pray about it, have faith, and everything will fall in place. It's not going to be easy. It definitely wasn't easy for me. It definitely was a roller coaster ride, but I do have a support system, and I just had to just remember my why I want to do this. And I learned to not take life for granted, because the normal life you once lived yesterday can easily be taken away today. So I encourage everyone to not wait to live your life, because it's not going to wait for you. Life is not going to wait for you. Take that first step to becoming the best version of yourself. In addition, my book, Saving Carmen, is an urban fiction story based on mental health. It focuses on real life situations that people may have experienced, which can sometimes be overlooked in today's world, especially in the Black community. Saving Carmen is about a young teen who feels trapped in her body by living in the shadow of her overprotective mother, who will stop at nothing to protect her. She struggles with her identity. She also struggles with friendships and finding true love. She's a good girl who's been bullied and has had a hard time getting her biggest crush to notice her. After being humiliated and noticing a change in her behavior, Carmen learns that she has been diagnosed with a multiple personality disorder, and her alter ego, Karma, decides enough is enough and that she's going to do things her way, even if that means getting her hands dirty. Will Carmen fight to get her life back? Will she let Karma take over and spice things up? Will she continue being who she is? Or will she save herself from herself, which is her alter ego? Find out in this urban thriller filled with drama, secrets, and twists and turns. That's it.
Sports science with a concentration in sports psychology. I currently have 2 books out, and they're both about mental health and athletes. They're research-based, so I did all the research myself. It was under the supervision of my mom's mental health urgent care, Finding Her Way Now urgent care. She is a licensed therapist, and I'm also mental health first aid certified as well. This book basically talks about my experience as an athlete and how the stress and challenges athletes go through on a day-to-day basis affect their mental health ultimately throughout their life. So some of the topics I talk about is like academic stress, financial stress in school, especially like with college athletes, dealing with scholarships and juggling academics as well. I talk about family stress. I talk about personal stress for like the younger age athletes, like the high school age athletes and the adolescent athletes and things like that. I also mentor athletes currently. I have a grad assistantship in sports information, so I'm also doing that as well. And like it was mentioned, I do plan on opening a practice for mental and physical rehabilitation in athletes, just because I feel like it's a topic that doesn't really get like a lot of acknowledgement, and as like over the years, a lot of people have been coming out about their mental experience during sports and things like that. My first book, which is the first edition, I wrote that during COVID in 2020, and I wrote this one last year in 2022. So it's just an expansion of the first one. They're both self-published by myself. The first one is self-edited, but the second one I had someone edit it for me, just because my resources were different when I first wrote the other one. But that's really all I have as far as what the book is about. I have been doing a lot of footwork as far as like getting it out to other athletes, and I feel like that's been the hardest part of my journey, because a lot of athletes that I want to get it out to, they don't necessarily read per se. So like I go to like, you know, sporting events, bring my book, you know, just hand it out, or just, you know, allow people to experience what the book is about, ask questions or whatever the case may be. And a lot of coaches, like on the college level, high school level, and even on a professional level, I've been to like a lot of sixth grade games, give it to like a lot of the staff and stuff like that. So that's the process I am now with that. I do plan to go further into talking more specifically about like CTE on a research-based level. Yeah, that's really all I have.
I was a functional depressed person. It's a lot of similarities. So I'm gonna read what I wrote down, just because I started writing at a young age, and it helps me process all my thoughts. So I wanted to talk about those who came with me. So I have my 2 children here, my boyfriend, my mom, my aunt, Miss Sissy, and my aunt and my daughter have on my 2 shirts that are on this table. I didn't even know they were gonna wear them today, so I'm hyped, because one is the I'm a whole woman shirt, and that's a vibe, it's a declaration, whatever way you wanna see it. I am whole, you can be, you know, declaring to the world that's who you're gonna be. Or it's just, you know how they say, that's a whole, I mean, you're a whole child, or you're a whole adult, whatever, I'm a whole woman, so that's what I am. Then my daughter has on the Because I'm Worthy t-shirt. That is from our Fresh Genesis series that we had, Because I'm Worthy. So it's just like another reminder that I'm worthy. I wanted to talk about Fresh Genesis. I am the founder of Fresh Genesis, and we basically help women become whole one day at a time. And that has been, again, my desire to help people in general, those who feel stuck, those who feel left out, underdogs, or people that just feel like they need a sign that they can continue to go forth. How my book came into fruition, as I said, as a child, I love to read, I love to write. One of the books somebody mentioned was a lot of Omar Tyree books. That's one of my go-tos. As you mentioned, I read books about college students and how it was like different trilogies like you're writing, so that's a good one. I love to read, I love to write, but this was prompted by the fact that I found myself alone a lot. Sometimes it was by choice, because I was different, or, well, because I was the youngest in my classes, or maybe one of the youngest. I was the obedient child. My mom and my aunt might think differently, but I was the obedient child in my family, so I was kind of the outcast at times. I was sheltered. Long story short, I was either not accepted by everybody or I wasn't interested in what others was doing. So as a preteen, I either found myself in the corner reading or writing. I wrote in my diaries. I wrote poems, as a lot of you guys did. I was even asked to write skits for my church. So when I graduated from the school that's formerly known as Wesley College, I decided that I wanted to write a memoir, and it would have been what's known as an anthology, as you were in. And that was before they even came out with anthologies. I graduated in 2007. So I had that idea in my mind. I had it all planned out. And then 5 years later, I began writing it down on paper, transferred it to my laptop, and then mysteriously the laptop crashed, everything disappeared. The notes that I wrote it down, because again, I need to write first to get it all out my head, that disappeared. And I realized it was due to the fact that life as I knew it was over, and my life was really just about to begin. I started making choices that I wasn't really proud of over and over and over. And I gave up writing. I had writer's block. And that's when I started becoming depressed. I couldn't figure out how to write things. I actually been depressed more than one time in life, but that's when I started the writer's block. And then I thought that maybe I'm supposed to share my story verbally. So I began focusing on helping people become healthier and wealthier through a network marketing company, and later birthed Fresh Genesis to help women become whole one day at a time. During COVID, I had the idea to motivate my network marketing team daily for 2 weeks. I didn't want to use things that they could have Googled or just found on Instagram. Various researchers reported that human beings make about 35,000 choices each day. Some are deliberate, others are subconsciously. But if we want to grow, it takes intention. So I asked God to show me the areas that we could choose to grow in. Each day I wrote a passage and I shared it with my team. When those weeks were completed, the title kept coming back to me over and over and over. I thought it was to make a t-shirt or something, but I kept feeling it wasn't enough. I said maybe I was supposed to do another week with my team. So I did. And again, I felt like it wasn't enough. So finally, I decided to turn it into a 30-day devotional. I had the choices written down. However, I knew this book could just not be filled with my words. For myself, devotional equals time spent with God. So I spent time in God's word to find out what he had to say about each choice. I added a scripture to each day. While creating the devotional, I did each day one day at a time. So each prayer you'll find in the book was actually something I prayed. There's also a space to journal how you chose to grow in that area today. What's great about this devotional is that it creates a foundation for a lifestyle of amazing decisions. Each day builds upon the previous day. You will be mindful to continue applying what you chose to do the days before. The best part is that you don't have to do it alone. God is willing to lead and guide us. What excites me and blows my mind at the same time is that every time I read a passage in it, it is exactly what I needed for that day. This has been told to me by others as well, and I wanted to read today's. It's not that long. It says, but be hospitable, loving what is good, sensible, righteous, holy, self-controlled. Titus 1:8. It says day 30. Oh, I'm sorry. I done took the paper out, I guess. I had it on the right day. Okay. Indeed, we are giving careful thought to do what is right, not only before the Lord, but also before people. 2 Corinthians 8:21. Day 22. Good morning. Say this out loud. Today I choose honesty. Just be honest. How many times do you say this when people speak to you? How many times do you say this to yourself? I'm sure the numbers aren't equal. We are often quick to acknowledge the dishonesty of others, but not our own. What lies have you told yourself recently? Are you okay believing the lies? If not, what changes are you going to make? Take a few minutes and check yourself. You don't like it when people are dishonest with you, so be honest with others and with yourself. Today, I challenge you to be honest. Then the prayer is, Father, thank you for this day. Bring to my memory the lies I've told myself. Help me to be honest with myself and others. In Jesus' name, amen.